everyone. Welcome to experiencing the new MediaValet. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Rachel. I'm an account manager here at MediaValet, and I'm really excited to walk you through another session on our MediaValet new experience. A review of some of the housekeeping items. We don't have time to answer questions live today, but we do encourage you to write them in the chat. We'll gather these questions, and your MediaValet representative will get back to you. The session will be recorded, as I mentioned, and it will be sent out to all of the registrants. So with that, let's dive in. Quick agenda today. If you've been using our platform for a while, you'll likely have noticed some big changes, and maybe some subtle ones too. They've really helped you kind of save time within the dam, and we're excited to unveil some new functionality today. The purpose of today is really to walk you through some of these cool new features and updates that can be found in the new experience. Today, I'll be guiding you through tools and tips on how to simplify your everyday tasks, navigating the asset panel, and of course, sharing content both internally and externally. So whether you're a power user or just getting started, I hope you'll leave the session with some new tricks up your sleeve. Let's jump into the demo. And of course, it logged me out. Promise it was just logged in. That's too funny. Everything happens very live. And we're going to jump right in there. Apologies for that. Keeps me thinking on my toes. So let's really jump into this new experience. We built the new experience really just based on your feedback, the customers. The team here at MediaValet is truly committed to making continuous improvements, and that is a really top priority going forward. In this experience, it really isn't just about a new UI, although that is wonderful. It's really about making MediaValet functionality better for every user. In fact, as part of an evolving experience we're rolling out across MediaValet, designed to make day-to-day workflows faster and more intuitive. So when we say that it is more than just a UI, we mean it. It's an improved way of working with your content, with your assets, with your teams. And as we bring this new layout to more teams, expect greater consistency across the platform. Let's dive into the dam. One of the biggest wins here with the new MediaValet experience is really how much more personal it feels. We strongly believe that you should be able to work the way you think, and that's exactly what we designed for. You'll notice a versatile workspace. You'll see some collapsible panels, whether it is the navigation panel on the left or your category structure next to it. This allows you to see your assets in a larger view or navigate your categories or navigate the navigation panel. Whether you're working on a larger screen or a smaller screen, sometimes working in a home office or an office or really on the go, those collapsible screens will give you the functionality and the versatility to really view your dam as it works for you. There will also be some new keyboard shortcuts. A little handy tip I want to address on this call here. If you jump down into the Help Center, you will see the keyboard shortcuts on the bottom. Whether it's a command or a control, depending on your computer of choice, you'll see these handy keyboard functionalities shortcuts, and you can also access the Support Center to learn more. When it comes to searching for assets, you'll notice at the top of your screen, you can search for assets front and center. So no matter what your permissions are in the dam, everyone will have that ability to search for the assets at the top of the screen with the handy Smart Search button right next to it. If you haven't learned about the Smart Search image in our dam, we recommend that you check some of the previous sessions that we've run where we've really dove into the power of the Smart Image Search. Let's talk about the navigation panel on the left of the screen, the blue navigation panel you'll see. Here we'll have all of the navigations that you will be using day to day. Now, depending on your permissions in the dam, you may or may not see everything that I have on my screen. I'm logged in my dam as an admin, but I also have a MediaValet dam, which means I have all of the functionality MediaValet has to offer. So there may be some things on this panel that you're scratching your head going, I don't have that in my dam. Not to worry. If there's anything there that you see that maybe piques your interest, reach out to your account manager or your customer success manager, and they'll be able to give you more information on what those navigation tools are and how it can really bring value to your dam. So keep that in mind as we're walking through the dam today. You may see or do things a little bit differently in your dam based on your permission level or what's already built into your dam. On the left here, you'll have all your functionality, whether it's viewing your library, if you have the permission to upload into the dam, the People tab, portals, templates, lots of really cool functionality that you'll use day to day can all be found on that navigation panel. And of course, as I already mentioned before, but I find very, very helpful, no pun intended, is the Help Center. Here you'll find all of the new releases, the Support Center, any technical support, the MediaValet Academy, so really great on-demand videos to watch to help you and your teams level up with their training, and of course those keyboard shortcuts as well. By collapsing this panel, you'll get more familiar with what these icons mean, but if you're like me and really just need to know what they are, remember that panel can open up again. For the next piece of information that I want to talk about, which is the asset panel, I'm super excited to talk about this. Just so that my screen's a little bit larger, I'm going to choose to collapse my categories, and I will collapse the navigation panel as well. Just makes my screen a little bit larger so we can see. So viewing and managing assets just got a lot easier. By clicking on this asset here, you'll see the asset panel on the right. The asset panel is designed to allow you to manage your assets without jumping around the dam. You can make it larger or smaller, depending on, again, the size of the screen you're working on or how you like to work. If you're like me, you want to see as much information as possible. I'm going to make mine larger. With this asset panel here, you'll see there's a bunch of functionality across the top. Some of these may look familiar. Some of them you may not have in your dam, or you may not have the permissions to see. Just keep that in mind as we're going through these. With the overview all the way down, you can you can scroll to the right where you have all of your different functionalities built in. If you're in a smaller view, you're going to have to scroll a little bit more. So it's really going to come down to how you prefer to work, what is going to be the path of least resistance for you. As I said, I'm going to just make mine a little bit larger as we jump through this. The overview is designed to have all of your key information. Think of it as a general look at the information of this asset. On mine specifically, you'll see that I have people and proofing. Those are additional features you could add into your dam, but some familiar pieces, description, category, and keywords. Jumping over to the metadata section. Here's where all of your rich metadata is going to live. So within your dam, you may have custom attributes. You may have lots of keywords. You'll have some general information, things like file type, file size, still important information, but less descriptive than something like a keyword or a custom attribute. As we scroll down, you'll see any information that I have about this particular asset will show here. I have all of my beautiful keywords, and if there's any custom attributes associated with this asset. If you have face recognition built into your dam, you'll be able to identify the faces that are identified or unidentified right within the asset panel. If you want to learn more about the People tab and our face recognition, reach out to your MediaValet rep. They'll be happy to show you how it works and the value it can bring to your dam. Another great tool is cropping. This might be new to some of your dams, whether you're familiar with cropping within MediaValet or not. I'm really excited to take you through this cropping journey. When it comes to cropping your assets, you may have some use cases around social media crops. Maybe you need individuals to jump into the dam and just grab a little snippet of what they need from a photo or an image. The cropping tab will allow those users to navigate with ease but also get the right dimensions, the right ratio, whatever size they're looking for from the assets in your dam. You'll see here we've got template, ratio, and of course, freeform. Jumping back to templates are different types of cropping sizes that maybe you set up within your dam, maybe your admin team has set up within your dam. Quite commonly, we see a lot of these being social media sizes or website sizes, or maybe you're working on a lot of print and you need a specific size or shape for those print crops. Whatever the use case may be, you can create those templates here for your teams so they can access those templates without having to remember, what are those dimensions that I need? I don't know about you, but when I get a lot of numbers in my head, and especially when it's this by that and those different dimensions, it can be a lot to remember. So having those templates within the asset panel here, you'll be able to rest assured that your teams will have the templates and the sizes that they need to crop what they need to in the dam. I'm going to click on this first template here for social media, Facebook. You'll see that I can move this crop tool with ease. I can also move it around the image. And I'll know that within that lighter box, that will be the size and the crop that I will be able to download. So it helps me to kind of cut out anything in the background that I don't really need and make sure that the size is correct. If there's not a template already available, maybe you're working with another social media platform or you need a specific size for your website banner, you can quickly add templates here, give it a name, give it a dimension, whether it's a template, ratio, or freeform. You can also crop with ratios. So maybe you need a specific ratio here. You can display with the grid, make sure that your image is fitting the nice visual cues. You can also apply a watermark. That's also something that you can apply in a template as well, and in freeform. With freeform, quite often we find that's really helpful for individuals who need a little bit more of a specific dimension as opposed to a specific template already created. Maybe it's more ad hoc, one-time use if you need to, whereas template would be really great to have if you're constantly needing the same sizes or the same ratios. Once I have my crop ready to go, you'll see that the crop and download button has become green. So I just move the crop around, ready to go. I can crop that and download it to my system. Jumping back to the asset panel, we've gone through the overview, the metadata, the people, the cropping. Let's jump over to CDN linking. You may or may not be familiar with CDN linking. Some great use cases for CDN linking is if you need to grab an embed code or a link of a specific asset living within MediaValet, excuse me, and need to bring that asset to your website, maybe an e-commerce platform, maybe a specific social media platform as well. Those are very common use cases for CDN linking, but we have customers using CDN linking for all sorts of reasons. So whatever that may be, you may need to grab that embed link of that asset. Here you can manage and see all of the links for the specific asset, quickly copy, or if you have the permission to do so, you can see the details, deactivate it, or even archive it. From CDN linking, we're going to jump into versions. If there's any older versions of this asset or if any iterations have been created, you'll be able to see that here, as well as have the ability, if you have the permission to do so, to update this asset within the versions tab. If you have proofing enabled in your dam, You'll also be able to see, is there an active proof of this, or are there closed proofs, or what the status is of those proofs. And the last three here, related assets, history, and comments, you'll notice this icon beside each of those. That icon will allow you to open those in a larger screen to look at that information in more detail. Now, you might be thinking these are a lot of tabs, or maybe you don't have as many tabs. Depending on what your permissions are in the DAM and what's enabled within your DAM, you may see all of these or some of these in your DAM. But there's a really handy tool here right next to it in the little cog wheel. You can sort these tabs. So really kind of circling back to that versatility and working the way you want to think, this set sorting tab really will help you achieve that versatility and unique kind of view, if you will. By clicking on this, I can hide specific tabs. So maybe, it doesn't make sense for me to see the proofing because that's not in my job description, and maybe I don't need to see the versions. I could hide those or show them depending on my workflow and what is going to be most important to me, but also I can arrange it. Maybe proofing is really important to me, and I really have to keep that top of mind. I'm going to move that proofing all the way up at the top here. I also want to have my links ready because I'm constantly pushing stuff to social media and our website. So you can rearrange how those asset tabs look within the asset panel. Want to also draw your attention to trimming and audio intelligence. You'll notice that those didn't come up in our kind of preview. That's because these are not applicable to the type of asset I'm looking at. So you'll see as I click on or just hover, I should say, over the little the little information button, it says this tab is currently not visible for this type of asset. So that way it's not eating up space around, giving you information that's not applicable. It's only going to be available on assets that kind of meet that criteria. So keeping that in mind as you're viewing assets, that can change depending on what asset type you are viewing. But of course, I can also move those around in this panel. A couple other pieces of information that I find quite important within the asset panel itself. On the top right here, you'll notice this little bell. If I wanted to follow this asset, all I have to do is click that bell. I'm now following this asset. That's a good use case for any asset that you want to be notified on any changes. Maybe there's an asset that's out for proofing, or maybe, the asset itself is going to be updated and you just want to be notified on when that is. By clicking that little bell, you'll be able to follow the asset, and all of those notifications will appear in the notifications bell at the top of your screen. If the workflow of this is done, I no longer need to follow this asset. By quickly and easily clicking the bell again, I'm no longer following that asset. A couple other pieces of information at the bottom of the asset panel that I wanted to draw your attention to. We have the option to share, download, and a few options on the right. The plus is add to collections. A callback to a couple sessions ago when we talked about collections in more detail. Definitely recommend checking out that recording, but we'll touch on collections briefly on today's call as well. Here you can also open the asset details in full screen. Gives you a larger view, that way you can really see the asset in a larger, clearer view, but also have the information on the right. Exit out of that. And I also have the ability to edit. Again, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but depending on your permissions within the DAM, you may or may not see all of these editing capabilities that I have. I'm logged in as an admin, which means I have superpowers, not superpowers like a superhero, but superpowers in that I can do everything in this DAM. Here I'll be able to edit title, categories, keywords, and attributes. I could update the asset, lock it, or delete the asset. Circling back to the share button, I think sharing is something that every individual that I've spoken to does at some point within their DAM, again, given their permissions. Here with the sharing, you have 5 options. If you remember talking about CDN linking previously when we were going through the tabs at the top, you can share this asset as a CDN link. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. Little fun fact for your day. Here I can either create a new link, or find an existing link and quickly copy that and take that copy and put it into an email, send it via Slack or Teams, any internal communication, send it off wherever it needs to go. I can also create a new CDN link here by clicking the button that says create a unique link. Some examples of why you might want to create a new CDN link is if you're working with maybe many different e-commerce platforms, maybe you want to have one for, e-commerce platform number one, e-commerce platform number two, and track the different reporting based on those different links. With CDN linking, there's a lot to be discovered. I really recommend you reach out to your MediaValet representative to learn more because it can be a very powerful tool to use to ensure that your assets are being shared with those links. Few other ways to share here as well. You can share it as an asset link. This is meant for internal users of your DAM, so you wouldn't be sending it as an asset link to someone who did not have access to your DAM. But keep in mind when you're sharing this link, be sure that that individual you're sharing with does have access to that type of category or that asset that lives there. So really think about the permissions when we're sharing links out, but you can send this to an individual or a group and put a little message there as well. You can also share it as a collection. So talking about collections, it's a great place to bring assets all together and really share a collaboration of assets. So whether you're wanting to share assets for someone to look at or share assets for someone to do something with, we have those options. Again, this would be an internal sharing process, so you would not share as a collection with someone who does not have access to your DAM. We'll talk on how to share externally just after this, but let's look at collections for a quick second. Here I could create a new collection. Maybe I'm going to call it MediaValet is awesome. I can share with individuals within my DAM. And I can also decide what those individuals can do. Can they view only, as in I only want them to see how awesome these assets are, or do I want them to also add or remove other awesome assets? And I can provide a message there as well. So really great collaborative approach if you're working on a collection of assets, you need to gather some assets together, but you want some intel as to, are these the right ones? What else would you do? And really have that collaborative workspace. I also can share this as a zip file and a web gallery. Web galleries are quite popular. I know a lot of individuals share with web galleries already. By sharing as a web gallery, that's a great way to share with anyone who's not within the DAM. You could share this with users that are in the DAM as well, but this really is the intended way to share assets with someone who is not a member of your DAM. Maybe you're working with the media and you need to send them some assets, or you're working with an agency or a third party, or just someone who's really cool and awesome that you want to be like, hey, these are assets that I thought you would really like for your work. Depending on which way you are sharing assets or who you're sharing those assets with, a web gallery is quite often a great way to do that. You can share originals or thumbnails, different sizes here on the top. You can also allow or not allow downloads depending on who you're sharing with. You could set passwords and expiration dates and always show most recent versions, meaning if this asset has been shared today, but I update the asset tomorrow, will they see that updated version? Yes or no? You can also share via link or email. And as I mentioned before, different sizes to share with. Lots of customization, lots of versatility, depending on how you would like to work. Similar to the download, you have a few options here. You can do an advanced download. That'll give you a lot more functionality in terms of really setting those specifications on what you would like to download. You could do a quick download, which would just be essentially just download to my system. I don't need it any other way. I just want it downloaded. And then also we'll bring you to the crop and download. Maybe you only want to have a picture of his beautiful face. Maybe you want the whole background. Gives you that option to crop before downloading as well. Circling back to collections, you can add this asset to a collection. Maybe you already have a collaborative workspace available, or maybe you've shared assets with those individuals within your organization. By adding to a collection, you can see the collections you have already created, or you can also create a new collection on the fly. We've already touched on opening the asset, in full screen, and obviously the editing capabilities as well. There is the option you may have noticed as we're looking at this asset here, the expand icon. This will expand the asset so you can take a really closer look at the detail in the image or type of asset that you're working with. And by exiting out, you are brought back to that asset panel. Closing out of the asset panel here, you might be thinking, well, there's other ways to share. That's great if you want to share one asset, but what if you want to share multiple assets? You can do so quickly by just selecting specific assets or circling back to those keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to use my keyboard and start grabbing some assets this way. What I want to do, I'm going to just move this to the left. You'll notice that this asset wasn't selected. That's because as I'm using my keyboard shortcuts, it's not going to select any asset that is locked. So that way you're not sharing assets. You're not having to go back and say, oh, did I share that one that was locked? If it's locked, you cannot select it in multi-select at all. So you'll be able to be rest assured any asset that's locked down will not be selected and shared. Makes things a lot easier when it comes to selecting a bunch of assets. Now that I've selected these assets, I have the same buttons on the bottom here. I can share, download, add to a collection, or I do have some more options there. By clicking on share, you'll see, because I've selected multiple assets, I'm unable to share this as a CDN link or an asset link. Good way to remember, link is a singular. If it was links, I could send multiple, but in this case, it's a link. I'm not able to create a link for multiple assets, but I could share these as a collection, a web gallery, or a zip file. So circling back, we've gone through a quick navigation of the collapsible panels, the navigation panel on the left. I've shown you the Help Center. Highly recommend you get familiar with the Help Center. There's a lot of great functionality and tools there at your disposal. So please get familiar with the Support Center. Your technical support is there. You can keep up to date with the new releases, MediaValet Academy, and of course those keyboard shortcuts if you need a reminder of what they are, all within the Help Center here. We've also talked about the asset panel, going through all of the different functionality within the panel itself. Highly recommend you check out the sort tabs. It'll give you a unique view and how you would like to work day to day. Again, MediaValet really focusing on working like how you think. Maybe this changes from time to time. Maybe I really need to see the metadata today, but maybe next week I'm going, okay, metadata, we've had our time. I really need to be focused on other things here. So you can arrange those tabs as you see best fit. We've also talked about sharing, downloading, and briefly on collections. And don't forget, if you have the ability to do so, editing the asset right there in the bottom right. So I hope I've convinced you today that the new experience is really where you want to be. It is where all the innovation is happening. So what's the next steps? Where do we go from here? Well, first, I would encourage you to try the new experience if you haven't already. Toggle it on in the top right corner of your screen. This will set it as a default view, and you can live freely within this MediaValet new experience. Check out the Help Center, lots of great articles in the Help Center. The MediaValet Academy will give you some training videos on how to use MediaValet new experience. And of course, lots of Support Center articles there as well. If you have submitted questions today, please feel free to hang on to those questions. Our team will reach out to you. And don't forget, with Dam Week coming up, May 27th to 29th, you can check it out by going to MediaValet and clicking the pink button at the top here, the pink banner, and you can sign up and see the agenda for Dam Week coming up at the end of the month. That's all the time I have today. Hopefully there's lots of great takeaways today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care.